All right, good morning, everybody. You guys are going to be learning some basic tools and where to find those tools in the app Sketchbook today. So I'm gonna have a series of short videos just to kind of go over some of these tools. For the first day, you're just exploring the app, seeing what it can do, and then just kind of turning in like a play on what it is that the different tools are. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to click on Sketchbook Autodesk. If you don't have it, it is in self-service on your iPad. So I'm just going to show you the first video today. We're just going to talk about these tools over here and then how to create just a new document. Because most likely when you open it, it's going to give you some prompts for the first time on how to use it. I would definitely look at that. That might help as well. But then I'm just going to kind of show you what these tools do over here and how to adjust things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this icon up here. Most likely it's going to prompt you the first time, but if you want to get a new sketch, like this one, I'm going to click New Sketch. If you want to adjust the size, you can. For this, I would just kind of go with the standard basic one for now, and then you're just going to hit Create. So it's just going to give you a plain white sheet of paper, basically. So over here on the left, we have a series of things like pencils, pens, airbrush tools, brushes, all sorts of things. So this little icon up here is going to show you a lot of the same thing, except instead of one single row of brushes, it's going to give you a whole lot of stuff here. Sorry about that. Turn that off. So if you're really like, I just need to kind of look around, that's a great place for you to start. There's even these texture ones here, which can be pretty cool. So that way you have lots and lots of different options. So like we're going to be doing a landscape painting. So like some of these shape ones might be a good one for getting things like grass and whatnot. Splatter could be a little bit more abstract. And there's things like glow and smudge. So smudge would be more of like a blending type of tool. And then designer brushes, artist brushes. So just kind of playing around with them, just marking up your page just to kind of figure out what's what. So another way you can look at this stuff is, say I want to go to just like a standard basic brush like this. That's a watercolor. Here, we'll do the fountain pen. Fountain pen will be kind of fun. Okay, so I can also go to settings, and then that'll give me an option for different sizes. So that'll be like how wide the brush is and how thin the brush or pen is, right? So this is a great way for beginners just to kind of look at it. And as you get more comfortable, there's kind of a quick access that I'll show you in a little bit. And then there's opacity as well. There are advanced settings. We'll maybe talk about those a little bit later, but for right now, we're going to stick with the basics. So opacity just means how see-through or solid the color is. So if I go all the way to 100%, it's going to be very solid. If I go all the way over here, it's going to be very see-through or non-existent. And especially if we're doing a landscape, that could be very, very helpful to get kind of that airy quality, or if you want to be able to see things through. I use opacity a lot when I do Photoshop and Illustrator work. I'll kind of draw stuff in Illustrator in an Adobe program, and I'll go through and play around with the opacity once I throw it into Photoshop. This kind of depends what it is you're making. I tend to use it more for photo editing, especially when I'm doing a series of images layered on top of each other. All right, so I'm gonna do kind of a medium size here, but then all the way for opacity. So that is that little icon up here. Now your quick access is right here. So you should be able to scroll. Okay, most likely it's gonna pop up things that you've used recently or very popular typical ones that you might use. So some of them might be things like a pencil. Kind of a chisel pen. So it gives you kind of that hard edge. Airbrush, so that's gonna be, the more you go over it, the more solid it gets. It's very soft looking. Pen, fountain pen, kind of a watercolor brush. It's going to be more of a finer round brush. This is going to be more of an eraser, like an eraser tip. Or this is going to be more of a chisel. kind of eraser. This is a harder eraser. So just different types of marks. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is like a pastel. Okay, another type of pastel. So this is a blender. Just kind of smudging it all together. Just plain, just exploring. So another kind of blender, just a little wider. This one's a little bit more flat, more solid. So that's just kind of the quick access right there. So just kind of playing around with each one of those. So I'm going to go back to my eraser and just kind of erase a section over here so I can explain what these little toggles are on the left side. So the toggles, I'm going to go back to my fountain pen. Okay, so this toggle right here, okay, this is going to be your brush size, just like we looked at in this top icon here. So for instance, if I'm all the way up here, I'm going to get a very big mark, go down a little bit, and get thinner, and even thinner mark. Okay, so I'm going to go maybe medium. So this toggle down here, if I go all the way up, that's my opacity. Go down a little bit, it's a little bit more gray, so see-through. And if I go down here, even more gray there. So if I kind of go over the top here, you can kind of see how it's that see-through level, where when I start building up the opacity, it's just completely covering and you won't see anything that's coming through behind it. So for the first day, I just want you to kind of play around with this app. So this is just video 1 of maybe 2 or 3. And this is just, again, going over the different type of brushes and types of marks that you can make. Feel free to really get into some of these funky ones if you want to. So with the library, kind of playing around with like, okay, well, there's different airbrush tools. There's even different grades of drawing pencils like you would have used for your still life. But like playing around with some of these texture ones might be kind of fun. So make that a bigger brush. You can see how it's all speckly. So that's pretty cool. And you get these like shape ones, like what does that do? Like, oh, okay. Like maybe that's one that I just use like a little bit of strokes I could use for like pine tree needles. Just kind of like cobwebs. So again, just different types of textures. And this is what makes digital art so much fun. It's because you can create brushes, save them if you're using Photoshop. But then there's a lot of these just kind of simple applications that have lots of different textures, which is really, really neat. So you don't have to worry about how do I make that and repeat it 100 times over. You can just repeat it over and over with a simple stroke, which is pretty cool. You don't have to worry about watering it down, anything like that. All right, so that's that for this video, and I'm going to go on to the next one.